Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Well, hello there. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you back today. This is episode 146, and it's 3 ways to implement instructional software in elementary music. Now, hopefully that didn't go right over your head, because I know the first time I heard the words instructional software, I kind of froze. So before I move along with this episode, I want to let you know that there is a blog post that goes right along with this episode, and it's called the same as that thing, 3 ways to implement instructional software in elementary music. You can simply find it by going directly to my blog at thedomesticmusician.com. It will be the very first blog post that comes up, or look in the show notes of today's episode and you will find a link there to go directly to that blog post as well. In the blog post, you will see 3 different instructional softwares I'm going to speak about in this episode, with links to YouTube videos that you can watch and get a little bit of background of what the 3 instructional softwares are, but also some concrete examples of different sites that implement those instructional softwares. So at the time of this recording, I am in my Master's of Educational Technology class, and one of the assignments was to find 3 different instructional softwares for a subject matter of our choice. And I know you're all going to be very surprised to find out that I chose music education. So I thought, well, my goodness, I would love to share this with my listeners because it's so relevant for what you're doing. I know at the time of this recording as well, you've already been using tons of different instructional software or technology, or integrating technology into what you do in your classroom or into your virtual teaching. But if you are needing a little bit more help, I'm going to start bringing more technology episodes onto this podcast, starting with today's. So what I'm going to do in this episode is those YouTube videos I mentioned that you can find in that blog post, I am going to leave the audio in this podcast episode as well. So you can either listen to them or go and watch them. I like to give you multiple ways of learning about what I'm talking about throughout podcast or blog post, depending on the way you like to learn best. But since you're listening to this podcast right now, then you're going to already hear these YouTube videos. So let's go ahead and get started. So instructional software can be a little bit tricky. I know a lot of times, if you're anything like me, even though I am earning my master's in educational technology, when it comes to technology, it can kind of feel a little bit overwhelming, especially when you're already being asked to do so many different things. Bringing in technology can feel a little overwhelming, but I am so passionate, and it's my mission to help you to seamlessly integrate it into what you're already doing, not to cause more stress, but to cause less stress and overwhelm. So instructional software is what it sounds like. It's different software that allows you to instruct your students in different ways. And the first one I want to talk about is called drill and practice. When we're talking about drill and practice, it's an instructional software that doesn't necessarily teach your students something new. It is something that allows them to practice the skills they've already learned. Drill and practice is a great instructional software for private lesson instruction. I'm thinking about all the different there's different instrument courses out there, or even YouTube videos that allow students to have drill and practice. But the one we're going to use today for elementary music teachers is called musictheory.net. It has different exercises to allow your students to practice what they've already learned when it comes to musical theory. And so in this episode, the very first YouTube video you're going to hear is me describing musictheory.net and why it's drill and practice and how to use it with your students. Musictheory.net is a great website for students to use in the elementary music classroom. It is a great site to use for drill and practice after students have already learned about note identification, key signature, chords, and scales, especially in the upper elementary grades. So it's not used to teach new information, but is used to assess understanding of students' knowledge of things they've already learned in the music class. So musictheory.net, it uses lessons, but also exercises and tools. And we're going to focus on the exercises part. And so, for example, if students in 4th and especially 5th grade have been learning about key signatures, then you would have the students click on the key signature identification section. This is set in challenge mode right now. And what you can do as a teacher is over here, this little button, which is the settings, you can click on this to customize it for what you want your students to do. If you do not want them to do a challenge, then you can just turn these off, turn the question limit off, and turn off multiple attempts. But if you want your students to have a time limit, let's say 5 minutes, and let's say you want them to have a question limit of 15. And then, yes, you can allow your students to have multiple attempts, and then you can go back. And you can also customize it for anything the students are learning. Right now, we're focusing on the key signatures. And so we're not going to mess with the other stuff right now. So we can start the challenge, and students will tell you what key signature this is in. If they get it wrong, I'm going to click on one to make it say the wrong thing. So for example, I clicked this was in the key of C, which is not correct. So it turned it red. When they get the correct answer, this is in the key of F, it will light up green and it'll play the note. It sounds like a piano. It'll also tell students up here how many they've gotten correct, the time limit if you turn that on over here in settings, and what percentage they have gotten correct. They can then screenshot this to send it to you, or if they're doing it in the classroom, you can just go ahead and see it for yourself and assess students for knowledge that way. The relative advantage of using musictheory.net over other options is it's free to use, so that's always a good thing. It's easy for students to use, and as you saw, it guides them through the exercises that they need to do, and you can easily set up a way to customize it for your students in your classroom. Okay, so the next type of instructional software I want to talk about is called tutorial. A tutorial shows your students how to do something. A lot of you already use sites like Quaver Music or Music Play Online or something like that. They have a lot of different tutorials that your students can use. And so during virtual learning, tutorials are great because they help your students learn regardless of if you're doing the teaching or not. I've heard from a lot of music teachers, maybe some of you listening have had this exact conversation with me or someone else, that you feel like by providing technology for your students to learn on, that you're not doing the teaching anymore. You feel like sometimes technology is replacing you as the teacher. But I want you to think about this. You're the one providing the instruction. You're the one researching the instruction, the technology that you want to use with your students. You're the one creating the lessons and providing ways for them to learn. So you are still being the teacher. A teacher is not just the typical, when you think of, I'm thinking about my elementary music experience. Or just elementary experience in general, not just music class, but teaching was a lot of standing at the front of the classroom and standing at the whiteboard or the chalkboard and teaching that way. But now teaching has kind of shifted where sometimes you're more the facilitator, you're facilitating learning. And so whether that's in a classroom environment or whether it's virtually, you're facilitating the learning happening with your students. So technology is not replacing you. So back to tutorials. I wanted to throw that in there because I've heard this conversation so many times. A tutorial, like I said, it just basically shows your students how to do something. It is usually something they've already learned, or you can use it to enforce something or reinforce something that you're already teaching your students. So the site I'm going to use as an example is called Prodigies. It's a site that is for younger students mostly, but they do have videos for older students as well. And so I want you to listen in because I'm going to describe to you how Prodigies is a great site to use as a tutorial. Today, I want to talk about the Prodigies music website, and this website is great for elementary music, especially when it comes to the lower elementary ages. And this site is a tutorial site, which means there are lessons and videos with instructional sequences all about music, which means students progress from lesson to lesson based on what they've already learned and based on what you want the students to learn as a music teacher. Students can learn music with or without your help as a music teacher as well. So meaning virtual learners or students in your classroom, when you're wanting to integrate technology as a music teacher, this is a great website to use. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and show you the Prodigies Academy, and we're going to learn more so I can show you a little bit behind the scenes of what this looks like. So down here, on this page, there's a video you can watch, but also down here, I want to scroll down and show you some of the sections. So it says, what's on Prodigies? 550 videos, ages 2 to 12, and then there's with the different ages, it explains a quick explanation of what is included. And in each video, it walks you through what to do next and what students should do next. And they simply can watch the video and learn. But down here, what I wanted to also show you is there are courses, there's badges to help students complete and stay motivated. You as a teacher are easily able to assess what your students are learning and can integrate what the kiddos are doing with Google Classroom and with Clever. And all these other things that are definitely applicable to read about. So the relative advantage of using Prodigies over another website, especially for lower elementary students in the music room, it's easy to follow along. Everything is laid out by content. In the ages of the students, you're able to easily see what you need for the ages of your kiddos in your classroom, and you can easily keep track of students' progress. And it also keeps both virtual and in-person students engaged in what they are learning in the music room. So the last type of instructional software I want to talk about is simulations. Now, when you hear the word simulations, you're probably thinking of like a pilot using a simulator to learn how to fly. Doctors use simulators to teach them how to operate. And of course they do it in real life, real life as well. But a simulation when it comes to music is basically a type of instructional software where students can practice something they're learning. So it's not just learning something, it's practicing what they're learning. So a simulation example when it comes to music is like a virtual xylophone, a virtual drum, a virtual piano, a virtual recorder. Insert the blank with anything else. It's something that they can practice on. Of course, it's not going to have the same feel. They're not going to be able to hold the mallets, but they're practicing on an instrument. I love the one, there's even online xylophones where kids can even remove different keys to play on a pentatonic scale. So if the students are learning to play the xylophone or boomwhackers, a simulation for virtual learners or for students just wanting more practice at home will allow them to do just that. So the video I want to share with you does come from Music Play Online, and it's a simulation using the boomwhacker, and I'm going to explain in this video how you can use it with your students. Music Play Online is a great music education website. The simulations from this website we're going to focus on in this video. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says instruments, and we're going to focus on barred instruments and interactive boomwhackers. So with the barred instruments, you'll see this tab open. And what you'll see is a xylophone, or you can click on metallophone. And these are instruments that you will find in most elementary music classrooms. And so where the students are learning online, or if you're wanting them to virtually be able to practice a xylophone part, you can easily have them come over to this simulation of the xylophone or the metallophone, and you can choose which key you want your students in. If you're only wanting them to play a pentatonic, then you can click on that and it'll take off bars for you. You see this little mallet pops up, and then you can also remove other bars as you want as well. As the students play their different notes with the arrow, it will sound like that note through the student's headphones or through a speaker. And so, that, like I said, that also works for metallophone. But let's say I also wanted to do an interactive boom whacker. Then let's just focus on the interactive boom whackers right now. Boom whackers will pop up. Boom whackers will pop up, and you will be able to see. I'm not sure how to get this off, but you'll be able to click on the boom whackers, and they will sound like the boom whackers as well, just like you would for the xylophone. So this site, like I said, has a lot of different simulation activities for different instruments up here as well. Ukulele has one, guitar, recorder, same type of situation. And so what I love about this site is that the relative advantage is that it is completely relevant to what's going on in the music room. Students are able to not just watch a video about the xylophone or listen to what a xylophone sounds like, but they are able to experience what it's like to play the xylophone by hearing it, seeing it, and being able to feel like they're playing a xylophone, whether they're virtually learning or in the music classroom. So as you can see, there are different types of instructional software. There's a whole lot more I didn't mention in this episode. I just wanted to cover 3 with you today. And it does not need to be overwhelming. It does take time and research to find any type of instructional material to use in your classroom and with your students. But with the right research of figuring out what type of teaching situation are you in, what do your students need from you, and what are you comfortable using, you will find the right instructional software or educational technology to use with your students. Of course, as always, if you ever have any questions about this, please feel free to ask me at any time. I would love to continue this conversation. And like I said, be on the lookout on this podcast for future episodes about more technology and ways to use it with your students. Have an amazing rest of your week, friends. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.